Yo, what's good? Welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Hope all of you out there are having a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. And of course, you're staying safe out there and honoring all of the soldiers who have fallen in serving our country. Before we take your questions here on the show, don't forget to subscribe to us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report as we continue our pursuit of 133,000 subscribers. Let me ask you this question. Do you want Niner shows every day that involve you, that are informative, thought-provoking, insightful, entertaining, fun, and free? If that's the case, hit that sub button right now. Let's start off our mailbag segment with this one coming in from Niner Mafia. Everyone is looking into Christian McCaffrey not showing up to OTAs a little bit too much. He's getting married in June. Here's my question, though. If he's getting married in June, why is he not showing up to OTAs in May? And why did he show up to OTAs last year? If Nick Bosa and Deebo Samuel are in attendance, when usually they're not, and if players like George Kittle are there, not practicing, but there, why is Christian McCaffrey not there? His fiance, the beautiful Olivia Culpo, has said in her TikToks, yeah, they're getting married in June, but everybody was raving and fawning over Christian McCaffrey's practice efforts last year, setting an example for the team. Also, let me ask you this. Why did Niners running backs coach Bobby Turner, when asked about Christian McCaffrey's absence, say it's part of the business? If it's part of the business, is Christian McCaffrey looking for guaranteed money, a restructured deal, or a new deal? Look, people are coming at me for sparking this conversation when in reality, I'm defending and supporting Christian McCaffrey. All of that guaranteed money from that lofty deal he signed with Carolina, it's gone. So if he were to get hurt, the Niners could cut him and they don't owe him anything as his contract runs through 2024 and 2025. He probably wants some insurances and reassurance that he can get some dough if something were to happen. And as we know, running back position, players get banged up. So I do think this is worth talking about. Appreciate it though, Niner Mafia. Jeremiah Grady, what is going on with Drake Jackson? Drake Jackson. What an interesting player. He got that knee surgery last year. To me, the Niners were clearly worried about his play, production, him being the player that he is, and the injury issues because they went out last year and they traded for Chase Young. And then Drake Jackson underwent that knee surgery. He has vowed that he's going to be back better than ever, but I need to see it. What's interesting about Drake Jackson is that we have seen in spurts the type of player that he can be. Fascinating size, 6'4", 273, long wingspan. And you think back to his rookie year and the start that he got off to. He had a sack in week 3, week 5, week 6. So that's 3 sacks in his first 6 games. Zilch, none after that, including him being a healthy scratch. And then last year, he has 3 sacks week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you're thinking, Drake Jackson, he's arrived. After that, nothing. And then he got hurt. To me, it's a make or break year for Drake Jackson. It's time to eat. And if you don't eat, maybe you got to find another role with a different team across the NFL. Chris Kosaric, very complimentary of his skill set, his physicality, what he can bring. But I'm tired of talking about what he can bring. I need him to show what he can do. So year 3 for Drake Jackson with his rookie contract expiring after year 4 is going to be a big one if he wants to prove that he can be a part of this defensive end rotation for San Francisco. And the Niners could use him. John Wallace, is it possible that Chris Hubbard can start at right tackle? I've talked about this here on the show, and I talked about it with Larry Krueger. Chris Hubbard's numbers last year, Pro Football Focus, pressures surrendered, sacks given up, they weren't bad. He's a 10-year NFL veteran who's played a lot of football in his career. in the stops that he's made in his career, he spent a couple of years with Pittsburgh, a couple of years with Cleveland, and then last year with Tennessee. He's clearly trusted as a swing tackle, a backup offensive lineman, but he started a lot of games, and last year before landing on season-ending IR with the torn triceps, which he's fully recovered from, he was pretty good for a team that was not good. And Colton McKivitz gave up 47 pressures last year, a lot of sacks. Colton McKivitz needs to prove that he can be a little bit better, that he can improve, because offensive line issues continue to hurt this football team. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of a competition between McKivitz and Hubbard, but it's also not a good look because Hubbard didn't show up for voluntary OTAs. If he wants to take that role, got to show up, in my opinion. Colton McKivitz right now, the entrenched starter. Hugo De Jesus. The offense is built off of timing. Have you ever noticed how sloppy our offense can look when it's compared to other teams? That's why I think I want to stay with the offensive line that we have. I mean, last year the Niners were the number one overall offense in the NFL. They averaged almost 30 points per game. My issue with this Niners offense is how they struggle against elite defenses. And last year, it was Kyle Shanahan struggling against really good defensive minds. From Jim Schwartz to Brian Flores to Mike McDonald to Steve Spagnuolo in the Super Bowl. And there were a couple of reasons for that. In the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, they got consistent pressure on Brock Purdy. That was because of the offensive line and then the bad design and game planning of the offensive line protections. It was also due to the fact that Kansas City played a lot of press man, and the Niners struggled to beat press man. Against the Baltimore Ravens, Christmas night, Brock Purdy was throwing picks left and right. Baltimore playing a lot of physical coverage, getting after the quarterback with their front. That caused problems. And then Schwartz, Flores, they drew up really good game plans, which really stifled San Francisco's offense. It's all about making the adjustments. That's not to say that Kyle Shanahan is not one of the top offensive minds in the NFL. He definitely is, but he can be a little bit better. He can evolve. He can make adjustments. He's not perfect by any means. And the Niners haven't won a Super Bowl under him because he's failed to make some of those adjustments. He's blown some big leads. He's had some bad game planning malpractice. So he can get better. There's no doubt about that. I do believe that Kyle Shanahan at some point is going to bring a Super Bowl, the 6th Lombardi Trophy, to the Niners. Jeremiah Grady, do you think that we are going to make a move before the season starts? Yeah, you think about where the Niners are at right now. I'm pretty sure, and I can just check this to be sure. As far as their salary cap space goes, I'm pulling it up right now per over the cap. Currently, San Francisco in the bottom third of the NFL with $6.2 million in cap space. But following the Eric Armstead release, because it was a post-June 1 designation, that is going to free up $18 million for San Francisco to have at their disposal. So that's $18 million on top of the $6.2 that they already have. Simple math, that's $24 plus million. That can roll over to next year to also absorb the Eric Armstead release. You can use that on contract extensions for Brandon Aiyuk, Diamador Lenore, Talanoa Hufanga. You can budget that money for a Brock Purdy deal. You can do a couple of different things. Of course, context does matter, and context changes thoughts and opinions. If injuries are to happen or were to happen, then of course the Niners could get aggressive. Look at what they've done the last couple of years. Traded for Chase Young, traded for Christian McCaffrey, traded for Charles Omenihu, traded for Jordan Willis. They've made moves in season to improve their team, and I wouldn't rule out John Lynch being aggressive once again. Tyrick, 49 Ty, is Brandon Aiyuk actually getting traded, or are they false rumors? As I've always said, I think Aiyuk and the Niners are going to agree to a long-term deal. I think he's going to get between $25 and $28 million with where the market is right now. Ultimately, I think a deal is struck. Hopefully it happens sooner rather than later so that Aiyuk is in camp, working on that continuity camaraderie with Brock Purdy, so you have your full cast of offensive weapons to get ready for the 2024 season. Look, I know on social media, some people have tried to rip me and saying, you're spreading fake news. All I'm talking about is the reports from elsewhere. And yeah, I have thoughts on them because who knew? I have a Niners talk show. But yes, I do think Aiyuk does come back to the Niners. They get a deal done. He does not get traded. If a trade were to happen, man, that would send shockwaves throughout the entire NFL. Gina G, the OG, looking good in the profile picture as always. Gina G, what do you think about Brandon Staley joining the Niners? I like it. I know some people think that he's a cornball. They've seen his pregame stretches and him running stairs as the Chargers head coach. He's such an analytical nut, which I'm not going to lie, that would drive me nuts as a fan because sometimes you have to make decisions with your gut. I like the aggressiveness, but it's got to be calculated. But I like Brandon Staley as an addition to this coaching staff. Look, give Kyle Shanahan credit. If there's one thing that he can really do, obviously outside of play calling, play designs, and being a good offensive mind, it's putting together a good coaching staff. Mike McDaniel, D'Amico Ryans, Robert Saleh, Clint Kubiak. Like, he's developed really good coaches. He's helped develop Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Bobby Slowick. The list goes on and on and on. So he has an eye for coaching talent. And Brandon Staley, I know it was the COVID season, and all numbers were a little bit wonky that year, but the Rams had one of the best defenses in the NFL. And he also played quarterback in college, so he sees both sides. He's a smart football mind. And if you put together a bunch of smart football minds on your staff, oftentimes you're going to be in a good spot as a coaching staff. And it's not like he's the DC. He's just helping with the defense. And he's helped them make some of the draft selections and free agent selections so far this offseason. I don't mind it. Steve, do you think that Glock Purdy will have his best season yet? I know a lot of people have said he could decline this year. It's hard to duplicate what he did in 2023. But on the other side of that, couldn't he improve in 2024? Because with more experience, you get a little bit better. The game slows down. You understand the nuances. You can get better. You can improve. You can make adjustments. And I'll say this, like Brock Purdy finally has a full off season in which he's going to get all of the QB1 reps. Going into his rookie year, he was QB3. Made the most of his opportunities. That's why he's made the team. And then in year 2, he had to come off the elbow surgery. Now, full off season, and Nick Bosa even said he's gaining a larger voice in that locker room. Game time. Last question here. Why do you believe the 49ers haven't signed Justin Simmons or Jamal Adams at safety? For Jamal Adams, it's because he's cooked. Can't play safety anymore. If you want to try him out as a hybrid linebacker, maybe do that. But in coverage, he's been bad. He's also been injured. And for Seattle, highly expensive. That's a bad combination right there. Of course, he's a free agent. He'd come at a fraction of the price of what he was making with the Seahawks, but I just don't think he's that good of a player. For Justin Simmons, could it be that the Niners are waiting for that $18 million to open up to have more roster flexibility to sign him? Because I think he immediately makes your team better. You could still find a way to play Justin Simmons and Talanoa Hufanga and Jair Brown on the field at the same time. Because Talanoa Hufanga can play hybrid linebacker. Jair Brown could play hybrid linebacker. You're not going to try it out a lot of 3 safety sets, but it makes your team better. There's no doubt about that. And maybe they're just waiting for some money to open up, or maybe they're comfortable with the current safeties on the team, including Malik Mustafa and then George Odom, a special teams ace. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for daily and year-round coverage of the San Francisco 49ers. And as always, thank you for supporting the show.